I've been a fan of Fumito Ueda's games ever since I've played Shadow of the Colossus for the first time back in 2007. It was just such a groundbreaking game that it left a deep impact on me and my opinion on the media of video games as a whole. The Last Guardian came later, and I also played it when it came out, being so excited to get my hands on a game that I've awaited for such a long time. It also is deeply ingrained into my psyche, and I've recently made a video talking about it a while ago, which I highly recommend you to watch. However, through all this time, there has always been something left undone. A blank space left from one of Ueda's creations that I never got around to for some reason or another. But that is no more. I've finally come around to playing Enemy Zero for the Sega Saturn, and I can finally say how much of an Ueda fan I really am. Nah, I'm just joking. I'm here to talk about Ico.
Hey, no joking about the Sega Saturn in this channel. You really should play it.
Sure, man. Maybe someday when I feel like my biggest Ueda fan ID is about to expire. I have to note I played the NTSC version of this game, but I highly recommend you to play the PAL version, and we'll talk about why later. Ico is the first game directed by Ueda himself. It tells a story about a horned boy that is sent to an isolated castle to be sacrificed due to him being an apparent danger to their village. But this boy manages to set himself free from his coffin, and he finds this girl with magical powers of light called Yorda locked in a cage. He manages to set her free, and both of them work together to find a way to free them, even if they cannot communicate verbally with each other. That's it. The game is all about you holding hands with this girl and trying to find different ways to reach the eventual goal of freedom. This is an action-adventure game, but in its heart, it's a puzzle game where you are tasked with finding the correct solution that will take you to the next area. Spread sparsely throughout the game are seemingly random encounters with shadowy monsters that will try to take Yorda away by command of the Queen, as she wants to use Yorda as a spirit vessel to keep herself alive. This is the only Ueda game that has actual combat, though it's not really that good. Ico can get a weapon, be that a stick or a sword, in different parts of the game, and swing around to hurt these figures. Most of the time, you'll be forced to fight them in order to proceed because you'll quickly be swarmed and not allowed to take Yorda to another room before she's taken from you and flown halfway across the arena to one of these holes that appear in the ground. On some other rare occasions, they'll just spawn infinitely and you'll be forced to run away to an idol gate to get rid of them for good. Thankfully, one of these occasions happens really early and it teaches you that the idol gates actually do that. So, whenever you can, run to those gates as soon as possible to avoid spending 5 minutes or so beating these shadows to death with a stick. At times when you're not being pestered by the shadows, this game is actually really chill and you can slow down and take in the atmosphere. Just trying to find the solution to puzzles is something you can do at your own pace, and you're gonna need it. The solutions to some of them aren't exactly obvious, and it's even less so because the game never tells you what you can actually do. It took me a while, and dying about 3 times to know that I could press the circle button to swing from a chain. Wait a minute, is this explained in the manual? Oh, it actually does. Well, I'll be damned. I guess that I should start looking at the goddamn manuals every time I play some of these old games. Not only is the game really chill at these times, but the art direction and sound direction are particularly congruent with it. This game has a very distinct art style that will accompany Team Ico's work for their subsequent games, and the sound direction is very much similar to how it's done in The Last Guardian. There are only 16 songs in the OST, and what you mainly remember are the save theme, the Shadow Monsters theme, the credit song, and the song that plays in a little cutscene that plays if you let the title screen run for a little too long. I should also note that the animations for both Ico and Yorda are particularly well crafted, despite them feeling a bit too snappy for my taste. They behave really well with the environment, while doing certain actions and in different situations. This checks out considering that Ueda started his career as an animator and was also the one that worked on most of these games' animations, doing them based on keyframes rather than motion capture, which was becoming more common at the time, and honestly, for a game from 2001, it looks really good. As usual, the environments are immersive and you can just stop and appreciate the surroundings. The windmills in the distance, other areas you've been through or that you will be through, the endless ocean. All of this paints a picture of many beauties that are shrouded in mystery, something that is par for the course if you already are well acquainted with these games. Ico is an interesting piece of work. You see, it was born from a simple idea of a game where boy meets girl and they work together to get to the exit. The initial builds of the game date back to 1997, while it was still being developed for the PlayStation 1. It was a much different game back then, with more focus on combat and things like health bars and other diverse HUD elements, as well as this whole castle being just the beginning part of the story. But all of these elements were gradually stripped off through something that Ueda has named as design by subtraction, which aims to remove all of the excess elements that don't help bring the game's core idea into focus. This really works well into bringing the whole focus of the game into holding hands with Yorda and solving puzzles. Perhaps a little too much even, as Ueda himself has stated, which he believes both hurt the game's potential sales due to not being able to present much through still images in magazines, which was the main strategy at the time for marketing, and by making the combat a bit too simple. My favorite part about the way this works is that a lot is set up with this single concept driven by the game, and through the trials and tribulations, I get to develop a bond with the characters on screen. I can't really say that was the case with Ico. Well, not to the same degree as with The Last Guardian at least. It's really hard to not compare these games, and I'll try my best not to do it. The thing is that the relationship between Yorda and Ico seems to be a bit too one-sided. You're the one doing everything while she is just there, kind of waiting for the path to open and then help you with the gates she can open with her magical powers. She can't protect herself, she doesn't help you with solving puzzles, and she kind of just seems not interested in anything. Well, would you believe me that a lot of this is because of this version of the game? The NTSC-U version was rushed for the release deadline and it lacked some features that were added to the PAL versions of the game. Yeah, it's not just the cover that is butt as ugly, which was made because Ueda still hadn't finished the artwork for the official cover. Some of the content is straight up just missing too. Some of it are extras such as the lightsaber and some rune changes to accommodate different puzzles, but also part of Yorda's AI is simply not there. She's not as responsive to danger in this version of the game as in the PAL version, and she also will not hint you at certain objects in the scenario if you're stuck in a room for a longer period of time. A channel called Mystic Odi goes into detail about many of Yorda's different behaviors, and some of them are present in this version of the game, though I never really noticed them. Must have been because I didn't wait long enough to see any of them happening, but I guess that is part of the experience. Do trust me, however, that you are better off playing the PAL version, for it is much more complete, and it also provides a translation to Yorda's lines in a New Game Plus playthrough. It pains me to say that this game didn't leave as deep of an impression on me as the other works from Ueda. I don't entirely fault the game for this, however. I'm sure a part of it is because I've already experienced so many other games that have taken direct inspiration from Ico, including Team Ico's other games. Though I must say, this game's legacy is undeniable, being the inspiration for many other creators, be it because of art direction or game design, or simply by showing them the true power of the medium, as it did with Hidetaka Miyazaki. Today, Ico is a sort of forgotten game that lives in a shadow of its younger brother. But back in 2001, it was a monumental work of art that would change the lives of many people forever. You should try it yourself as well. Perhaps it will impact you more than it did me. It still is worth playing to this day, and it's something better experienced firsthand than through me yapping through the screen. And Eruki Nonomori, Eku Egen.